Our Value of Advice ebook and podcast series is proudly sponsored by MediHelp.
Hi, this is Tony, and I'm speaking to Janet Hugo from Sterling Wealth. And we're talking about the journeys of financial advisors, financial planners, especially the winners of the Financial Planner of the Year. Janet, maybe you can give me to start off with a bit of an elevator pitch of who you are and what Sterling Wealth is all about.
So who I am is I am the product of needing the advice that was lacking in my family. And I think that's the bespoke element that I bring to clients. Is that I've been on the receiving end of a lack of advice and some bad advice. And that was what prompted me to study and become a financial advisor. So that set me on the path of becoming a financial advisor. And Sterling is a group of advisors who I think are just absolutely fabulous, where any one of the people that are my colleagues in the office are people that I would be absolutely happy to manage my family's money. And I think what we do as a group is we treat clients as individuals. Nobody has the same story, where every client, every family has a different makeup. And our financial advice is tailored to each family. So I think that's elevator pitch is not quite as polished as it should be, but I think that's exactly what it is. Clients are individuals, and the elevator pitch doesn't fit everybody either.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, Janet, as I'm doing quite a few of these similar interviews with financial planners of the year and so on, and you've drawn the straw of having to talk to me a little bit about client intimacy and getting involved in clients' lives and so on. How do you manage that process? And because it's a tricky one, you've got such a responsibility, but you also have to not get too close because you have to be pragmatic in what you do.
Yeah. So I think what I can do is maybe share with you a couple of client situations, where we've taken a step beyond a boardroom table and a financial plan, where you take the step into a client's life and you understand that there are bickering children in the family who are wanting to manage mommy plus mommy's money. Or you've got a family where daddy was the breadwinner and the brains behind building up all this wealth, but the family seeing his mental capacity diminish. And you're wanting to step in and gently ease out of his control the managing of the investments and the management of the finances. And that's where financial planning needs to take a really soft, gentle touch, because the family, in many instances, are going through trauma, their own unsettledness. And forcing a family to make a clear-cut legal financial decision is even more difficult. To get that decision over the line, if you approach it in a very clinical way, is not going to happen. But if you gently, slowly encourage people to do the right thing and talk about how they will feel afterwards, that they'll feel that sense of comfort, that they'll feel that sense of being at peace by making this decision. That's how we tend to immerse ourselves in clients' lives. Somebody said to me recently that it's also about knowing what's inside the client's fridge. That might sound a bit of an odd thing, but as your clients age and live on their own, you do want to know that they're cared for. Sometimes I'm the only person who takes them a bunch of flowers to bring them a little bit of sparkle and happiness. And that means an enormous amount to me and brings me a sense of fulfillment. Portfolio numbers can be quite clinical and boring. And to discuss the same things, your income's perfect, your portfolio is okay, but how are you feeling today? What is your sense from the portfolio? Are you needing more income? Understanding that clients are quite often wealthy because they've been frugal,
Mm.
and encouraging them to have some joy with their money and retirement is also something that we do. Plan that overseas trip, enjoy the visiting the children, take time to go and see the spring flowers, encouraging that participation in retirement as opposed to vegetating and watching your income every month is
Mm.
something that we do. So I'm not a clinical psychologist. I probably should have been one,
Mm.
given where I am now and all the things that we have to trade through as advisors.
Mm, mm. And maybe just to ask, how did you develop that skill, and how would you advise financial advisors to go about, if they're not necessarily going to study something, to just grow that skill of being able to really get close to the client and really hear who the client is?
Tony, one of the things that we do in the office is I don't teach tasks to my junior advisors and my admin help. What I do is I teach the principle. So the principle of what we do in everything we do in the office is, how do we show we care? And I'll encourage my admin lady to tell me that the client is feeling upset or worried or insecure. If she listens for it, if we've asked to listen for it, then it comes back to me and I can step in and say, remember, we didn't discuss selling those shares. We are planning to do it this May, more gradually. Because clients, when they're faced with financial decisions, can sometimes only hear part of the story because their mind was stuck on the information that they heard in the first sentence and we've already raced on.
Mm.
Looking for ways to show we care, looking for ways to show we care in fighting for admin to be smoothly processed within the institutions, fighting for clients' fees to be in their favor. All those are things that ultimately just show that we care about the human being behind the numbers.
Mm.
I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but I think
Yes.
that's a
No.
guiding principle
Mm.
that's so
Mm.
strong.
And maybe then just getting to that, when you allow or grow other financial planners in your business, etc., how do you release them to your clients? How do you entrust your clients now to them? Where's that line when you're making a decision like that?
Yeah. I've grown 2 junior financial advisors recently who are still with me. And Lizuku's path, when she came into my practice, was that she said she wanted to be the compliance officer. And I said to her, that's great. I can work with that mentality because if
Mm.
you want to stick within the lines, that's perfect. From there, all I showed her was that with her skill with numbers and understanding the product base, we were helping clients. We're not selling to them. We're facilitating a solution to the problem that they present to us.
Mm.
So by not forcing her to go out and sell anything or present herself to a client in a time frame, she's slowly taken over client relationships where she's grown into the first responder. But initially, she would all emails were channeled through me. Now I have confidence that she's able to manage the client relationship along the same lines as if she were managing the advice she would give to her family, because
Mm.
whatever we give in advice is what we want our families to have. And I think all I've done there is take somebody who's had great skills already in knowledge that she'd learned along the way, but help her apply the principles of care and due diligence. And that due
Right.
diligence is so important because we discussed a little bit briefly, a lot of the stuff that's brought to us as financial advisors often has an agenda behind it. A product needs to be investigated to the point where we understand the full agenda of the company presenting it to us and selling it to us,
Mm. Mm.
so that we are able to then match it perfectly to the right client.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you were to sort of put somebody who has a financial planning practice, and maybe they're 2 or 3 guys, and they're looking at growing their financial practice and into a bigger business, what sort of things would you say to them? What should they be looking at? What should they strengthen so that they can actually create a business out of their practice?
So the way I've seen it done successfully and the way I'm applying it in my practice is creating a career path for people, but also creating it with a salary. So encouraging a salary-based mentality instead of a desire for quick bucks, because that doesn't service my clients' needs. What I'm wanting is to ensure that the business survives whatever strategy I put in place with employees.
Yeah.
And that's the most important, is your business model needs to match your career path for your employees. And ultimately, I'm bringing my junior employees, junior advisors to a point of being able to fly on their own with their own wings, but they've been salaried along the way. They haven't been forced to make an arrangement with a client or a product to a client.
Yeah, that has been something that has come out of almost every interview that I've had so far in this series. And the fact that to try and get people away from, I think there are two things that came out. One was to encourage people to enter the profession because they're not going to have to sell to survive.
Yeah.
And then the second one is to encourage that mentality that you focus on doing the right thing, providing the right advice, and not on the numbers, and not being tracked on the deals and the numbers that you're bringing in, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you match that with the need for the business to actually make money?
Good question. The business makes money because we've got loyal clients who refer other clients to us. So I'm very careful about making sure that we can add value to a client before we take that client on. Because if the client and I don't feel that we can add value to them or that they're receiving value from us, they're not going to stay with us. And a while ago, I did a calculation on the amount of work that it goes into taking on a client. In my practice, we don't make money on that client for at least the first 2 years because we invest so much time in rearranging the FSPOs that they usually bring to us and ordering their investments into an investment that aligns with their future goals. That takes a lot of time, and that's an investment from our office's side that takes it takes a lot of work. So the business grows because we're perfectly matched with our clients. And along the way, the market grows. And along the way, we add new perfect clients to our client base. Client
And
selection.
client selection, I think that's another important thing that comes out a lot is
Yeah.
make sure that you select the clients that fit with what you do and how you do it. Because otherwise you can't get that alignment in terms of the advice that you provide and the actions of the client following that advice. Yeah, that has been something that came out a lot. So maybe just in closing, in terms of where we are at as an industry, the products that we have, solutions that we are able to provide clients and how we do it, etc. Where do you think we still have shortcomings and where can we do more?
Our shortcomings are in that we're not fully embracing AI and the technology that we already have. It takes an enormous amount of work to get data from an institution, an investment institution, into our software in an accurate way. And that software is then used to produce reports and financial projections and investment modeling for clients. So there's a bit of a disconnect at the moment that is going to take some time to address. I think we're still playing at the very bottom end of what technology could do for us in our profession. And at the same time, we're needing to embrace technology to help us with clients against fraud and schemes and scams. And I use those words and they mean different things. There's a lot of fraud around. So helping clients understand two-factor authentication, helping clients embrace that they don't get stolen from. That's fraud. Then the schemes that are out there, I needed to do an enormous amount of financial modeling and calculations that I relied on software to do, to explain to a client that if he put his house into a trust via a company, he would land up now paying this much in transfer duties, this much in capital gains tax, and that very nasty loan account at the end that he'd be paying interest on, income tax interest on, would just become messy. But I had to have the numbers. So technology helps us there. And then, and it battled the scheme. And then scams, there's a lot there. There's a lot of fraud and scams and investments that can go nowhere. And then we need the FSCA to step in and help us.
Mm. And ensure, yes, yeah. No, I agree with you, because people easily fall for those things, and everybody has got access to so much information, and nobody really knows what information to believe and what not, what to trust,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. Yeah. So as an industry, we need to ensure that people come to us as an industry when it comes to advice on money, not the YouTube and Instagram and Twitter.
So that trusted advisor is so important, that we're the person that the client says, hey, I heard about this. Is this okay? That we're the person they bounce ideas off of. So I often say to clients that I'm going to be the financial executive director within your family company. And no, it's not my money. It's the company's money. It's your family's money, but I'm going to be there to help you guide it and give you direction along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Janet, thank you so much. We can carry on for a long time talking about these interesting things, but our time is almost up. And thank you very much for sharing some of your journey and your wisdom and so on. And I'm sure that it will add a lot of value to other advisors in the industry.
You're so welcome, Tony. It's such a privilege.
Wonderful. Janet, thank you.